All right, welcome everyone. Pirke Avos. Again, we're holding by Pirke Avos. We are in chapter 2, Mishna 15. This is part 9, probably part 10, part 11, part 12. As we work our way through, again, welcome everyone. Holding by Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 2, Mishna 15. This is part 9, and we're still going through the first part of the Mishnah. First part of the Mishnah says that they said 3 things. Rabbi Lezer says, and this is where we're holding the end of his statement, or end of his first statement: let your fellow's honor be as dear to you as your own. Do not anger easily. So we spoke quite a bit about your friend's honor being as dear to you. Spoke the last few weeks about anger, right? Spoke about how bad anger is, even if a person, let's say, has to discipline a child, right? Even though you have to show anger, right? The Rambam says you should fake it to the best of your ability, right? Not let real anger sit in. Obviously, if a person has to punish a child and you have to show anger, you have to really work very hard, that there really shouldn't be any anger there. And, at the same time, person punishes a child, the punishment has to fit the crime, right? You're not forbidden to punish out of anger. Right, because when you punish out of anger, usually it's not going to fit the crime, and usually a person will regret what they do because probably be a knee-jerk reaction, right? And a knee-jerk reaction is always bad. Now it could be a person's tired, a person's aggravated, their kid does something, they just lose it. They just lose it after a while. So you got to be careful, right? You got to be very, very careful. Always have to be in control. Not easy. Right, definitely not easy being in control. But we go through a lot of things, go through a lot of difficulty, etc. So still, you got to be in control. Even though we get beaten down in life, as we always say. Comes along Rabbeinu Yonah, and Rabbeinu Yonah of Gerondi, famous for writing Shari Tshuva, Gate to Repentance. Very good book to go through. This time of year, for certainly for Yom Kippur, about punishment for actions, taking responsibility for actions. So he's got a commentary here on Pirke Avos, on ethics of our fathers. So he says like this. He says, even though anger is bad, right? Everyone knows, anger is a bad character trait to have. Nonetheless, he says people drawn after it, right? We sort of spoke about this last week. We'll flesh it out a little bit more. People are drawn after it. Yeah, I don't think people like getting angry in general, but he says that, it's a common thing. It's a common thing. It happens. We might be drawn after it. Even though after a few times the person may get angry, he realizes, or she realizes, not a good thing. Because when a person's angry, right, it's brought down, I think, in Pirke Avos also, that when a person gets angry, you do not answer them. You do not try to reason with them. Why not? Because when a person's angry, and anger is compared to idolatry, which is really bad, even for non-Jews, right? Forbidden even for the no-idol laws, right? Anger, what it does is it takes the person out of this world. Person cannot think straight. Person won't be able to think straight. Right? In other words, they're caught up. They're caught up in their anger. So when someone is angry, you gotta not deal with it. In best way possible. Why? Because they won't be able to hear what you have to say. Right? I shouldn't say never, we may have no choice. But really, you shouldn't speak to somebody who's angry. They won't be able to hear it. Until they calm down, then they can hear something. But until that point, right, shouldn't speak to them. So he says, even though a few times the person gets angry, he's telling you, says Rabbeinu Yonah, do not get angry easily. Now, we made a diuk, we made an inference last week. We're not going to harp too much on it. Here, what does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah itself says, do not get angry easily. Right? Says, do not get angry easily. What does the Mishnah not say? Right? We'll make an inference here. What does the Mishnah not say? The Mishnah does not say, don't ever get angry. Very interesting. The Mishnah always says, don't get angry easily. Now, why would the Mishnah not say, never get angry? Because that's impossible. No human being. Nobody in this world has never been angry. Even a little bit. A little bit perturbed. A little bit upset. Something happened, whatever it is. So the Mishnah cannot tell you, never get angry. Why not? Because that's impossible. The Torah is for someone to live by in the way that we're able to hear it. In other words, God does not put us in a situation we cannot handle. Regardless if we think we cannot handle it or not. So the Mishnah cannot say, never get angry. Because no one's holding there. God's not going to punish somebody where they're not holding. Right? So, very interesting. We read on Rosh Hashanah, we read, all about judgment. Right? All about judgment. So here what happens, right, with Sarah, with the fact that there's the Akedah, binding of Isaac. One of the last tests Abraham goes through. Very hard test. You see, he doesn't get angry. Does exactly what God said, even though it was backwards. Didn't make sense. Because God promised him, this is your progeny, not Yishmael. This is going to pass everything down spiritually. So very good. What's the problem? God says, I want you to bring him up. Now, technically, we could say, God didn't mean to kill him. Why God, literally it says, bring him up. But the same language as a sacrifice. Right? An Ola offering is a burnt offering. Same language. Same use of the word. So everyone's going to say, but that's what it means. Right? That's literally what it means. Bring him up to be sacrificed. How do I know? Because that's what happened at the end. He's about to kill him. Put him on the altar. And an angel says no. Angel stops him. So technically you can tell me that's not what it means. He just told me to bring him up. But yeah, everyone knows what he was going to do. Right? So did Isaac. He knew what he was going to do. And he could have ran away, could have stopped him. Avram was about 100, goes to 100. And Isaac is 37. Usually a 37-year-old will have the upper hand over someone's 100. Usually. But the Medrash says, Avram tied him up. Isaac didn't move, wanted to be a perfect sacrifice, and God said no. The angel said no. Very hard test. Right? You see, goes against logic. Totally goes against logic. The Rabbeinu Yonah says, don't get angry easily. Work on it. Meaning, you have to weigh something that is said or done is worthy of getting angry in the first place. And the reason is someone get angry could be at the slightest thing that they deem it's worthy to get angry at. So before a person decides how they're going to react, You got to determine if a person is upset over here. They have to think, is this something I should waste my time on getting angry about? Or not? Why should someone get angry? Waste of energy. Total waste of energy. Why let that person in your head? Right? What would someone say? I'm aggravated. They didn't have a right to say what they said. They didn't have a right to do what they did. You're right. Not going to argue, right? Let's say a person did something wrong. Okay. Or they said something. They're trying to get under our skin, right? Family can do that, make all kinds of backward statements saying, oh, you're being brainwashed. You're this, you're that, you're the other thing, right? They hate Judaism. They blaspheme. It's kind of hard to hear. We had someone make fun of you. Someone once said to me, the family members say, hey, if I breathe on your food, that means it's not kosher. You know what my answer was? They said, yeah, it's kosher. It just has bad breath on it. Next. Like, what do you answer to that? I'm going to let the person get under my skin. I'm going to sit there and waste my time. The person can't even read Hebrew. The person doesn't know nothing from nothing. So people will say, especially when it comes to family, siblings, parents, relatives, people will say what they say is hurtful. I remember you used to do this. Right? Let's keep in mind, if a person converts to Judaism, or a Jew, a born Jew that became religious, and they weren't religious their whole lives, right? And someone reminds you of your past. They say, hey, I remember you used to eat shrimp. Or they say, I remember you used to be an idolater. Whatever it is. That 100%, according to everyone, that's a Torah prohibition. That's a Torah prohibition of what we call onus devarim. Onus devarim, you make fun of someone else. Can't remind someone of their past. Right? There's even a question speaking Lashon Hara, speaking badly against yourself. Who says you're allowed to say you did this, you did that, you did the other thing? That's speaking Lashon Hara against yourself. Now, it could be, in some cases, it's permissible. You want people to, to hear your story. You want people to gain. Yeah, from what you've been through, different things, baby. Practically speaking, it's Lashon Hara. You're not allowed to, right? You really should be forbidden. So if someone reminds you of your past, or they say, don't give me the business, like someone once said to me, you want to get on your soapbox and you want to say this and say that, save it for your students. Save it for your classes. Don't waste your time on me. You got nothing to say to me. Okay? You don't want to hear? You don't want to hear? It's kind of painful. You think about it. You knock someone down. This is what everything you believe in is what you live for. They take a sledgehammer and go, wow. Yeah? So I ain't supposed to react to that. So years ago, I would have said, yeah, that's kind of painful. That's kind of difficult. Right? 100%. Might have got my blood to curdle. So today, what happens? I go, bink. I look at the person like the greatest advice I was ever given by one of my rabbis, and you have to look at people as they're absolutely nuts. They have a 25 IQ. Someone has a 25 IQ. All right, you might get annoyed, slobber on you, maybe they do other things. Okay, but you understand they have a 25 IQ. They're limited. They're limited in knowledge. They're limited in their actions. So why are you going to get upset? Why are you going to get upset? No reason to get upset. But you're going to say, this person said this, we've spoken on this many times. Yeah. Person said this, person said that. It's painful. Okay. But the person is also mentally challenged. Person deserves to be in an insane asylum. They're not holding where we're holding. And they say things. Fools say all kinds of things. I sit there and get upset what a fool says. someone trying to get under your skin. So that's the whole point. Over here says Rabbeinu Yonah. Person asks the way, whether it's something that's worthy of getting angry in the first place. They're going to say, there's a right to be angry. Let's say true. It's something that gets under your skin. Yeah. But there's an issue here. Right? There's a catch-22. On the one hand, you're going to say, really, I shouldn't get angry because these people are mentally challenged. Good. But I could say something else. I could say the flip side. I haven't got angry in the first place. Right? Or better. Sorry, let's say better. Not that you're not allowed to get angry. But the point is, you're going to say, I should say something. I have an obligation to put them in their place. Right? 100%. I have an obligation to put them in their place. I don't have to be a dish rag. I don't have to be stomped on. I got feelings. You can say people don't care. So that's catch-22. On the one hand, gets under your skin. You want to say something back. Maybe you should. If it's, they're not going to listen anyway, you're just going to feed them more to say things, then I wouldn't. Then it's just a waste of time. You just let it go. On the other hand, a person will say, who says I have an obligation to be a dish rag? Who says I have an obligation to be stomped on? Yeah, you look weak. People say you look weak if you don't answer. Not everything you have to answer. Someone asks you a question and you know the answer. If someone doesn't ask you a question, but what they do is they have an agenda and they make a statements I don't have to answer. And that's not even with a very quick comeback. I don't have to do that. Why not? Why don't I have to make a comeback? Because they didn't ask a question. Right? Person says, we mentioned this before. Person says, I think Judaism discriminates against women. Did they ask a question? No. They made a statement. I think Judaism is this. You know what the answer is? Oh. Or, okay. I think Judaism this. Did they ask a question? No. You can see from what they're saying, they're probably not interested in an answer anyway, but they're not asking a question. So the answer is, oh, or okay. They get flustered. They say, why do you keep saying okay? You didn't ask me anything. You made a statement. So then they come back and say, if I were to ask you, what do you think about this? What would you say? That's a question. That's a question. Then you might have an obligation to answer. But it comes along the Haggadah, and the Haggadah of Passover. There are 4 sons, a wise son, an evil son, a wicked son, a simple son, and the son doesn't know how to ask. The wicked son and the wise son pretty much say the same thing. But there's one major difference. The wise son, you give him an answer. The wise son, he says, why do we have the mitzvahs and why do we do this and that? And he says, you don't eat after the afikomen. The last piece of matzah, you don't eat afterwards. You give him an answer. Because he said, what's all this laws about? The evil son says the same thing. One major difference. What does the Haggadah say? The Haggadah says, Yahakesh Shinov, you blunt his teeth. Why do you blunt his teeth? Why do you blunt his teeth? Why don't you give him an answer? He deserves an answer, maybe a strong answer. Maybe he deserves a strong answer. You don't answer him. Right? You blunt his teeth. You want this deed. Why do you want this deed? Because he's not answering. He's not interested in an answer. Totally not interested. You don't even give an answer. Why don't you try and draw him close? Give him a nice fancy answer, a philosophical answer. Why don't you do something to draw him close? Because he's not interested in an answer. If he's not interested in an answer, what am I answering? I can't answer an answer. That's impossible. He's got an agenda. Or she has an agenda. You're not going to say, oh, that's the answer. Oh, I forgot. Someone asked the question, where's God during the Holocaust? And why did God kill 6 million Jews? Right? So I got a great book. It's called Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. You want to read it? No, it's just a question I ask rabbis to make them fidget. Oh, you're not interested in an answer. Very good. I'm not going to waste my time. You want to hear an answer? I'll give you an answer. I know why some people, they'll ask a question. I get 10 seconds. I got about 10 seconds come up with something. Otherwise, that's it. They don't have the attention span. And they won't listen. Someone asked me a question last week about something. About Rosh Hashanah. Why is it 2 days? Even in Israel and the other holidays. What do you call it? Sukkot, the first days and last days. And Passover, same thing. And by Shavuot, it's only 1 day. It's only 1 day in Israel. So I knew I had about 10 seconds. 15 seconds. They gave a very quick answer. That was it. They're like, oh, that was it. Were they interested in a detailed answer? No. Got to know who your audience is. But I would think, according to what the Haggadah says, I would think give him an answer. Try and bring him close to the Torah. Try and work with them. And the Haggadah says no dice. Waste of time. You can't answer an answer. Can't answer an agenda. Because they're not looking for an answer. Right? So what am I going to get upset about? Well, someone will easily say, when it comes from a parent, from a child, from a sibling, what's the problem? It's painful. Because they know how to hit you. They for sure know how to hit you. Yeah, they know where you're holding. They know where you've been. So it's more painful. Because they're not going to listen anyway. Especially if you're the youngest. They'll never listen. Doesn't matter. It could be 80. It could be 75. They could be 80. Doesn't matter. You're still the younger sibling. They're not going to listen. So I have an obligation to give them an answer. They're not going to listen. I don't have an obligation. Right? At the same time, they're trying to get under your skin. They're just making fun. So they say, I have to sit there and take it. Then they're going to say, what are you getting so upset about? Right? What's one of the things they'll always say? No, I was just kidding. No, don't get so upset. I was just kidding. Or they may say, wait, what are you getting so upset about? There are people that have no idea the words they say. They don't have any idea. And you can't say anything back. It's like you have to hold your hands tied behind your back and get smacked. Like Oliver Twist. Can I have another? Boom. Can I have another? Boom. That's what it's like. Oh, you say something against them? You hit them back just as hard as they hit you? You can't do that. You don't have a right. You know why you don't have a right? Because they don't respect what you have to say. Totally don't respect. Right? I'll give you an example. That's how once came visit. They see all the books I have in my living room, a lot of Hebrew books, and they say nobody can know all of this. I was like, well, I know a few people that do. They really know it. But they said there's no possible way anyone can know all this. Like, what a waste of time having all these books. You'll never learn it all. So I said, I got a very, very simple question. You walk into a doctor's office. Yeah, he's got all these books on his shelf. Would you ever say that to a doctor? Got, 3-4 bookshelves full of books. They're double rows. There are double rows there. Behind books, there's all over the place. Got all these medical books. Would a person even have the chutzpah to say it? Never. Go into a lawyer's office, even better. Go into a lawyer's office, see a whole bunch of books in the office. Would you ever make such a comment? Or an accountant, for that matter, who knows how many books they have? Would somebody like that ever make such a comment? Never. Why would they never make a comment? Because they respect what the person does. They respect their knowledge because they're a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, or whatever. Persons who are a perpetual student learning Torah, and Torah learning never ends, right? And you're always learning whenever you can. That they don't respect. You're learning all these ancient texts. What does it matter anyway? What does it do for the world? Oh, we said at the beginning of Pirke Avos, chapter 1, Mishna 1, the three things the Torah stands on. Torah, avodah, gimel, chasadim. Torah, we understand. Get back to Torah. Avodah, service to God, sacrifices. In chesed, acts of loving kindness. But one of the things is Torah. That means if God forbid there was no Torah learning anywhere in the world at any time, the world goes back to chapter 1, verse 2. Chapter 1, verse 2, that original chaos, kind of like the back of that Led Zeppelin album. Anyone knows what I'm talking about? Chaos! You need Torah to be learned every second of every day. Got to be learned. If it's not being learned, the world goes back to what it was. Some people might be a benefit. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't have to listen to me. Right? It might be a benefit. But see, that's where the lack of respect comes in. So you got to respect all the stupidity other people say. You can't make such a comment, say this is retarded. Oops, sorry, can't say that. Right? This is really stupid. How can how can you teach 5 or 6 year olds to say that a boy shouldn't be a boy and a girl shouldn't be a girl? That's not meant to be mentally challenged there. That's being so open-minded. Got to respect that. And if you say anything against it, you lose your job. You lose other things. Got to be so open-minded till my brains fall on the floor. Very good. Big problem. Why do I have to respect stupidity and things that go directly against Torah mitzvahs when what we do and we're upholding the world and they trample on it? And they despise it. And they make fun of it. And they call us sponges. And they call us cockroaches. And they call us all kinds of things. All kinds of things. We're not right. We're not right. We're not right saying it. I remember, we'll get into politics. Someone outer Orthodox Jew, made a comment against some of the government. I don't even know if the person's Jewish or not. Russian, probably not Jewish. Yeah, the person's really anti-Semite. His whole platform is being an anti-Semite against Jews, against Orthodox Jews. Yeah, so they made a comment, made an idiotic comment, took it totally out of context. Totally out of context. I think it was a statement, either the Rambam or the Vilna Gaon. I don't remember which. I think it was the Vilna Gaon. Rav Elijah Vilna more than 250 years ago. Something to do with secular studies. Could have been the Rambam. I don't remember now. But he took something that was said totally out of context. Totally out of context. Like all of a sudden, this person is like a big expert in Torah. The big expert, and knowing the Talmud like the back of his hand. Person knows nothing. Knows nothing, this idiot. Yeah. So one of the religious people in the government, slaughtered him. Slaughtered him. First of all, he said, with the idiot from Moldova, that's where he's from. He said, would this moron from Moldova not speak about Torah mitzvah, what he doesn't know anything about? He used very, very strong language. If someone doesn't know high mathematics, you don't talk about calculus. Someone doesn't know anything about medicine, don't open your mouth. Don't open your mouth to someone's like, who knows something, who understands something, been learning it for years. right? It's like going to knock out a PhD because I read an article in Wikipedia. Imagine I read an article in Wikipedia on physics. I'm going to knock out Stephen Hawking. That's it. Knock out the greatest physicist of the last generation, or maybe other generations, because I read an article in Wikipedia. Person would have the chutzpah to do such a thing. So what happened? This idiot from Moldova says, "Gee, what are you getting so upset about? You know, what are you sitting there calling me names and this and that?" Like this person never does. I'm not saying two wrongs make a right. Yeah. But heretics, you're allowed to knock off. You're allowed to make fun of. You can even call them names. Yeah, a lot of other things you probably do to them also. Yeah. But someone's going to, someone doesn't know anything from anything. It says, hey, this, the Rambam says like this, but you take it totally out of context. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're going to take that seriously? Can't say anything? Right? So, what are they getting so upset about? Because they're taking God's name and stamping on it, trampling on it, making fun of it like no tomorrow, like they have no problem. Like there's no problem doing so. See, they call us cockroaches and everything else. They don't apologize, etc. Someone says something against them about their lack of knowledge and this and that. Oh, you can't say that. We don't have a right to say that. Right? We for sure don't have a right to say that, but they can say whatever they want. That's kind of a problem. Right? That's like having two hands tied behind your back. Don't you say what's good for the goose is good for the gander? Why not? Because they don't want to hear it. You don't have rights to speak. Well, they'll make a big distinction. We won't get into politics. You get Democrats and Republicans. They don't talk to each other. They talk at each other. They talk like this. A lot of people like that. They don't hear the other side. They don't want to hear the other side. They have their own agendas. Right? So when it comes to agendas, there's no argument. Totally no argument. Are you going to convince someone to drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak? Maybe. But they have to want to hear. They have to be intellectually honest. I can tell you in the last 30 years, I met one person intellectually honest. And they told me if I look into Judaism, they were intermarried. They said, if I look into Judaism, I find out it's true, I have to change my life. I'm not willing to do it. So I won't look into it. Okay? They're intellectually honest. They're not coming up with crazy ideas. I think the Torah means this. And when it talks about intermarriage, it only meant, if they gave Webster's fifth definition, what it means, and what they think the Torah means, and all this and all that. Coming up with all kinds of things. They're not doing that. They're saying, I'm not going to look into it. They're not going to look into it. Why? Because I find out it's true. Then I have to change. I'm not willing to change. But I met one person like that. Everyone else has their own idea, though. God didn't expect everyone to be Orthodox. Oh, really? Let's go back 200 years. 250 years. You know what? Everybody was Orthodox. Everybody was Orthodox. Some more, some less. Everyone told me, what happens? He said the rabbis lost power. The rabbis lost power. And things went haywire. In Panama, people don't know, I'll tell you. In Panama, there's no intermarriage. You know why there's no intermarriage? Because there's a Rav down there in Panama runs his community like a tight ship. Very, very tight ship. Right? Very, 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 very tight ship. No intermarriage. He's got power. Rabbis don't have so much power to them. Rabbinical courts don't have so much power to them. Right? So you got all these crazy ideas floating in the world that have diluted Judaism. But up until 250 years ago, there was no such thing as quote-unquote Reform Judaism. Conservative Judaism. They didn't exist. Up to 100 years ago, no more than 100 years ago. And other movements are dying. It's like a fossil, just a matter of time before they all shut down. Rampant intermarriage, disaster. Absolute disaster. So people have told me, you're a fanatic, you're this, you're that. I said, I'm connecting to a chain that goes back 3,000 years. And we'll say our chain got broken by what we'll call America through assimilation and intermarriage. Very good. I mean, not so good. Yeah. But everyone before that was holding somewhere in the world in Torah mitzvahs. Today is not the case, not even close. There'll be a lot of people you see in synagogue. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, you won't see them again. You won't see them the whole year. Whatever reason they come, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Okay? But you won't see them again because Judaism doesn't mean that much to them. But they show up in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Is that worth something? Maybe. There are people, most people in the States are not affiliated. I'm not saying being affiliated with a bad losing movement here of tens of thousands of millions of Jews. These people don't, they're not affiliated, period. That's worse. At least they have something in their soul, they affiliate. Even with the wrong movements, okay. But people say not everyone's meant to be Orthodox. Really? Show me that in the Torah. Show me in the Torah where you're allowed to pick and choose. Where the Torah says, if you feel like doing it, fine. If you don't feel like doing it, fine. The Torah says you can make good choices and make bad choices. True, we say in the Shema every day, you make the right choice. Second paragraph. You make the right choice. What's going to happen? Good things will happen. You have livelihood, you have food, everything will be taken care of. All your needs taken care of. You do the wrong thing, there's payback. Do I have free choice to do the wrong thing? Yes. Is that what God wants? No. But you pay a price for doing the wrong thing. True. Right, beginning of Parshas Re'eh. God says what? Choose the good. You can choose the good or the bad. You choose the good, you have life. Choose the bad is death. Right? Freedom of choice. Okay. So a person tells me, I can do what I want. You want to be Orthodox? I want to do this. Okay, it's your choice. But there's a right way, there's a wrong way. How do you know? Did you ever read the Bible? The Bible tells me what I'm supposed to do, not supposed to do. Oh, I don't think that. I think it's this. I think, okay, doesn't matter what you think. That's what it says. That's what it says. You got to prove to me why it's not true. I get a lot of proofs why it is true. That's not the point here. So people say whatever they want. Sounds absolutely insane. Sounds insane. Someone's going to say, I go to Webster's 8th definition. This is what I think it means. Really? Got any proof for that? Around in the States and a relative hammering me. This whole thing about intermarriage and my grandchild intermarried. I would never bring up, I still have a connection to them and I would never bring up my family and this and that and the other thing. So I said, that's very interesting. I said, you agree intermarriage is wrong? Yes. Person of the older generation, yeah, they agree it's wrong. Very good. Very good. They agree it's wrong. But I would never be a fanatic like you. I said, but it's wrong. You agree it's wrong. So they're not willing to lose a grandchild over it. I get it. They got great grandchildren. Then, you come out against it. They'll think they're, kind of crazy. Yeah. She's a very nice person. I didn't say she wasn't. That's not the point. But it gets better. It gets better. I told the story before. It's a good story, though. I mean, it's a sad story. But, so I said, so maybe you have sources? Maybe you have some sources you want to show me? Not a world expert in everything. Maybe it's a medrash, you got verses somewhere, maybe in Tanakh, I don't know. Maybe you got something to prove it. To prove that you're right. Maybe. What does this person say? What does this person say? It's right here. It's right by heart. As we say in Boston. It's in my heart. Very good. It's in your heart. And that's what I believe. Based on what my heart says. So what your heart says is more important than what God says. And we have an explicit verse in the third paragraph of the Shema. Third paragraph of the Shema talks about the mitzvah of tzitzis. And it says, don't go astray after your eyes and after your heart. You don't go after your heart. Your heart leads you astray. Now there's a whole philosophy here, right? They're building up their belief based on this way out philosophy. I mean, not so way out, but totally wrong. Because what's their philosophy telling them? You're right, I agree. Intermarriage is bad, probably ruining the Jewish people today. No question, they agreed. Yeah. But who says I can't have anything to do with this marriage? Who says I can't acknowledge the marriage? You know why? A Jew and a non-Jew marry. It's not a marriage. It's not a marriage. I don't care legally. They go through a justice of the peace and all that. It's not a marriage. It's not recognized. That conversation didn't go that far. But I say I would never break up my family because of it. That's an agenda. You ever hear blood is thicker than water? That's not your blood, though. In that line, you know, the Jewish line goes to the mother. So those kids that they ever have are non-Jews, unless they convert. According to I shouldn't say according to everyone, according to us. Because if you hold patrilineal descent, by the Reform movement, I think conservative movement holds also. Okay, so they consider Jewish, whatever. We hold that they're not Jewish. So that line is finished. Now let's say those parents have three boys, let's say. 2 boys, 1 boy, whatever it is. Right? And they intermarry. Guess what? Spiritually, that line is done. Done. Unless someone converts. So that's a disaster. Oh, I would never go against it. That's destruction spiritually, the Torah. Because the Torah says many times, every time in book of Leviticus, when I go through it, verse by verse, and the verse says it's forever. Forever means forever. Right? It means forever. It doesn't change. So if it doesn't change, what happened over here? Oh, it's a good try. People in the later generations, older generation would say, yeah, you know, if Judaism dies, well, it's a good try. People in the younger generations will say, okay, so what? So what if Judaism dies? Big deal. People had a connection to Torah mitzvahs generations before, even if they were secular. They had some sort of connection, right? Stronger connection. This generation, what connection do they have? Everything's wide open. Got to have my brain open till my mind open till my brain's fall on the floor, right? Things that would never have been heard of or thought of. Imagine today while I'm on this rant, I'll take questions soon. You know, imagine any pedophile out there. Every community has them. Yeah, imagine they decided they're gonna march in parades, just like the LGBTQ community. Yeah, they're gonna start marching. All these pedophiles. Imagine philanderers. People are not faithful to their spouses. They're gonna march. People who commit fraud. They're gonna march. And then any other deviant behavior, whatever it is. Does that make any sense? You would have told me years ago people were doing certain things. Nobody knew about it. It's under the table, brushed under the carpet. Now all of a sudden it's a big mitzvah. Now I'm going to ram it down my throat as an agenda. And if I don't believe in it, or I don't hold by it, or I say anything against it, I'm in trouble. It's a good thing I don't have a congregation. At least in the States or anywhere else. People like that walk through the door. Come on. Yeah, welcome them in open arms. Someone comes trans, wants to convert, they got big problems. Mason's probably never going to convert them. Most likely, they're not going to convert them. If they're already Jewish already, okay, we got to deal with them. Where do you put them in the synagogue? Yeah, it depends what operation's been done. I mean, like, these questions come up. I mean, it seems absurd. Yeah, you're a guy, you're not a guy. Are you a woman or you're not? No, I'm halfway. What do you mean you're halfway? You're either one or the other. Yeah. So it's a good thing I'm not politically correct. Be in big trouble. Certainly in big trouble. But if someone's going to do that or already did it, now they want to convert, then it's going to be a problem. Right? Pretty sure rabbinical court's not going to want to convert them. There's a big problem what to do with them. Big problem. Gay couple walks in. If I was a rabbi of a synagogue, I should give them honors. Let them be called to the Torah. They adopt a child, right? Should make a whole child naming in the synagogue. Goes against Leviticus chapter 18, doesn't it? Sure does. But in theory, they can say, you have to allow this. I have to allow it. It goes against what the Torah says. Yeah. Goes against what the Torah says. Go to a different movement. They allow it. Right? They'll welcome you open arms. We're not going to. We'll say, I'll do whatever, I can to help and to teach and this. You want to do that? There's a limit. Isn't there? Shouldn't there be a limit? People got to, have a backbone, but yeah, it's problematic. You have a business, someone comes in, same-sex marriage, I want you to, give me flowers, I want you to bake me a cake. Problem. Even non-Jews. The problem goes against everything you believe in. But they can sue you, which has happened in the past. You have to do this. Not to do anything. Serve whoever customer I want. No, that's discrimination. Right? So then it gets into the whole question, the law of the land. What has spoken about before. The law of the land says you can't discriminate, but the Torah says, not discrimination, the Torah says forbidden. I can't acknowledge it. This is a big issue. Unfortunately, it's a big issue today. Got to leave my mind open until my brain's falling the floor. That's insanity. That for sure is insanity. And what if it's, God forbid, in your own family? It's a problem. It's a big problem. How can you acknowledge it? How can you say, oh, this is my more than friend? Oh, very nice to meet you. Get out. Like, what are you supposed to do? You have kids to educate, but you have to stick to what God says. And what does God say? It's forbidden. So what about trying to draw them close? They're not, at this point, they're not interested in being drawn close. They want acceptance. Right? What's the problem? There's a huge problem here. You cannot accept it. You can't say it's okay. How can an Orthodox Jew go to an intermarriage? Can't. It's 100% forbidden. You represent Torah. It's forbidden. Right? Had a friend of mine I went to yeshiva with, saw him coming back on a flight, coming back to Israel. Says, oh, what are you doing in the States? And no, I went to a wedding. My sister got married. It's like, oh, Muslim stuff. It's like, well, not exactly. She intermarried. So I said, how could you go to the wedding? He said, people knew I was there under protest. I said, you're eating your kosher food, doing the horror, right? Dancing around and whatever, under protest. Everyone knew I was there under protest. Now, what does that mean? They knew the person was against it, but the person wasn't strong enough to stand up to family. Family's a hard thing, I agree. And they'll make fun of you, and they'll say all kinds of things, and you're a fanatic, and okay, you get everyone else to accept it and say Mazel Tov except one person. And that they can't stand, because they know what the truth is. Just like Mr. Haman, Mr. Haman himself in the book of Esther. Everyone bowed down to him. He was like an idol, and everyone hated him also. But he walked in the room, he had a bow, except for Mordecai. Mordecai Yehudi, Mordecai the Jew wouldn't bow. Even though, other rabbis told him he should. For the sake of peace and this and that, so I'm not bowing. And he wasn't even the greatest rabbi of that generation, so I'm not bowing. So Haman took it out on him and the entire Jewish nation. So I'm going to annihilate all of them. One Jew won't bow, everyone else, he's got power, he's got money, he's got everything. Right? He's got everything except one Jew won't bow. So why is he so upset? Oh, you know why he's so upset? Because he knows the truth. He knows the truth. And people don't want to hear what the truth is. They'll say all kinds of things in different words. You're a fanatic, you're a nut, you're this. You're worse than a Taliban. Imagine being told that. I heard that also. Kind of laughed when I heard it. I had to be careful. Person didn't hear me laughing. But that's what I was thinking. Well, call me the Taliban? Come on. Right? It's a bit much. You're a fanatic, more fanatical than them. I don't know. They rape people and kill people. We're not doing that. Not even close. I don't know how you can make that comparison, but okay. It's a really messed up world. Totally messed up world. But guess what? We have an anchor. We have an anchor. You know what the anchor is called? That anchor is called Torah. Right? The anchor is called Torah. We got an obligation to keep what the Torah says, period. Right? That's our obligation. That 100% is our obligation. That's what we're going to do. Regardless, sometimes we may have to give up our lives for it. Right? There are times we may have to give up our lives. That's what the Torah demands. If I have to do it, we'll do it. Is it something I'm interested in doing it? No. If we have to, yeah. That's what God demands. But as we always say, you can't be a cream puff, even in a cream puff generation. But you got to stick to the ideals of what the Torah says, regardless. Right? The Chofetz Chaim says in the laws of Lashon Hara, while speaking badly against others, you work for someone, the boss needs certain information. And he knows you have the information. So the boss comes to you and says, give me the information. He says, I can't. It's Lashon Hara. Not allowed to. So what does the boss say? What does the boss say? The boss says, if you don't give me the information, then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fire you. And let's say you never be able to get him on that. But if he threatens to fire you, yeah, that's it. Even if you don't make any money and you're not going to have money, then you're not allowed to say. So someone will say, is that what it means? That's how far it goes? How far it goes. Lashon Hara is pretty severe. More than 30 prohibitions in one shot. Even if it would come to losing your livelihood, you're not allowed to say it. You might think, come on, it's pikuach nefesh, like saving a life. I'm not going to have to make a living. God will take care of you, don't worry. God's got plenty of ways to take care of us. If you lose this job, you find something else. One door gets closed, another door gets opened. Always happens. We just don't necessarily see it straight away, but it happens. Always happens. Can't give over the information. Giving over that information is forbidden. It's going to cost you a living. What? Right? We always ask the question, is the Torah true? It's not true. It's true. If the Torah is true, don't I have to uphold it? I have to uphold it. That's my obligation. Even if it costs me money, lose my job, or God forbid their life. Yeah. A lot of questions here. Let me take some questions. I go on this topic for a long time. I speak about it a lot. Someone said, get angry when people use foul language. Is that normal? So I would say that a person, you have more sensitivity than most. For most people, they hear foul language, doesn't bother them. You're already holding somewhere in the world, right? That doesn't bother a person, right? I'm not going to say what level and what numbers and whatever, but, people hear it often enough. They're not so sensitive to it. Now, there are people, coming back to Torah mitzvahs, whether it's a Jew, a JIT, a Jew in training, or a Jew themselves, what happens? What happens? They become more sensitive now. Because now they realize person shouldn't speak that way. Right? People shouldn't curse in general. Tell that to people. I get offended by the way you curse. See what they say. They're going to think you're nuts. They're going to curse more. They're going to curse more. That's what's going to happen. But in general, getting angry means you're more sensitive. You're more sensitive to the way people speak. That's a good thing. That's definitely, that's definitely a good thing. You say, say what a terrible thing. God gave you a mouth to be able to say good things. You shouldn't have to curse. That means you have a higher sensitivity. So I've heard from a number of people this. They have a higher awareness now. In their work environment, they hear people curse, they can't stand it. Yeah, because their neshama, their soul is screaming out. And their neshama is saying, this is a terrible thing. Can't believe I had to hear these words. How could a person speak like that? Yeah, so that means they have a higher awareness. That's good. That bothers them. People speak Lashon Hara badly against others. That should bother us. It should bother us what people say. right? That's not a bad thing. That means we understand this is bad. And we understand also can have an effect on us. So a person has to think, even if they, God forbid, they hear Lashon Hara, and even if they may think it's true, you're allowed to guard yourself against the situation, but you can't believe it 100%. You got to take it out of your mind. You got to work hard to take it out of your mind. Say, but I didn't ask for someone to tell me this. You're right. You didn't ask for it. It happened. What happens after the fact? That's the question. What happens after the fact? After the fact, you'll tell me, I already heard it, now I believe it. Can't believe it. That's forbidden. That 100% is forbidden. So you have to work hard to get it out of your mind. If it's something really that could affect you in a negative way, then I got an obligation to guard myself against it, but I still can't believe it 100%. I can have a doubt, but I can do what it takes to protect myself. That's a different issue. That's a different issue. Someone here mentioned work as a teacher of child behaves bad and says, I'm sorry. Right? You think it's okay and do it over and over again. I think you say you're too kind. Yeah, you can be too kind. King Solomon says in Proverbs, person who spares the rod, i.e. doesn't discipline a child, doesn't mean they whack them around. That's forbidden. Doesn't work today anyway. Right? But if you spare the rod, you're cruel. What does that mean? Right? And another thing over here also mentioned, but what does it mean if you spare the rod? It means you don't discipline. You have to discipline. Kid says he's sorry, right? So, imagine that the Mishna says at the end of Yuma, the end of Tractate Yuma, the Mishna says, if a person says they'll sin, right? And then they're going to repent, they'll sin, then they repent, they're not given a chance to repent. You can't do something premeditated and say, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Right? Certainly in Torah it doesn't work. Now, if a kid does negative behavior, and he does it again, and he does it, and then he apologizes, but he keeps doing it, then there's a pattern here. There's a bad pattern here. Right? You can't be too kind. Certainly can't. Right? They have to be disciplined. There has to be some level of deterrent that the kid shouldn't do it. Right? Being too kind is being cruel. It's being compared to being cruel. Kids need discipline. Even if they say, we don't want discipline, we're not interested in discipline. If a kid is not disciplined, he can do whatever he wants to get away with it, that drives him nuts. Then they spiral, they don't know what to do. And they go far beyond, but they want discipline. Deep down, even if they don't admit it, they want boundaries. Kids need boundaries. If they don't have boundaries and there are no repercussions, who knows where they end up? But I tell you one thing, they'll never understand anything's wrong. That they've ever done anything wrong. Because they don't pay the price. There are no repercussions. Today, it's a crazy thing. You can steal up to like $1,000, especially, in California, and not get prosecuted. Walk into a store, start taking things, they can't touch you. Crazy. Right? So you say you got crazy laws, that's the law. You're right. They're not going to prosecute. Am I allowed to do it? Stealing. Right? But you got to tell me, but that's the law of the land. So the law of the land is stupid. It doesn't mean I'm allowed to do it. Don't you say, but I can take advantage. I can walk into a store and take this and take that stuff I need. Save tons of money. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Only one problem. The Torah says you're not allowed to steal, regardless of what the government says. You're not allowed to. But you're not allowed to do. That's stealing. Yeah, it's a little bit complex, the law of the land here. Someone cheats on their taxes, but there's a legal loophole. If there's a legal loophole, that means it's legal. If it's something that's not legal, but they do it anyway, that's illegal. So the question is, we'll ask a moral issue. And the moral issue is, if it's a legal loophole, should I use it? Am I allowed to use it? Or should I go beyond the letter of the law, lifting Mishur Zadin, Should I go beyond the letter of the law and not do it? Should I try and hold to a higher standard? And the answer is you don't have to. If it's legal, in this case, the legal loophole, we're not talking about stealing here. It's a legal loophole. I'm allowed to. I'm allowed to benefit. Why should I benefit? If a person gets on government funding for different things, but it's illegal and they're lying, they're lying. Someone puts a house under someone else's name showing they don't have money and they want to get on government programs. You allowed to do that? I don't know how you're allowed to do that. Doesn't make sense to me. You should be allowed to do it. It's forbidden. You're declaring something's not true. They'll say, do you own property? You say, no. What do you mean you don't own property? You own it. No, you say it belongs to, my brother, it belongs to this one, that one, technically. But it's not true. You're making a deal with somebody saying this doesn't belong to you, trying to show the government that's fraud. So we'll say, come on, people do it. I don't care what people do. It's fraud. Are you allowed to commit fraud? Right? My everyone once told me, he said, people don't understand there's a verse in the Torah. You know what the verse says? Devar sheker tirchak. You're not allowed to lie. That's lying. But it's to my benefit. What do I care? It's your benefit to lie. You're defrauding the government, getting money you don't deserve. That makes no sense how that's permissible. That's forbidden. Right? Right? That is forbidden. How does the person justify it? You have to ask them. I don't answer those questions. They could justify it. 100% they could justify it. Say, these people do it, other people do it. Yeah, so what? There are people who do certain things, and it's wrong. Just because people do it doesn't make it right. This is a total prohibition, fraud, lying. No matter how much money you're saving. If someone tells me people doing it, they have to live with themselves. Very good for this time of year. They have to live with themselves. And in this case, living with themselves is going to be kind of hard because they're defrauding. They're doing something that's not true. Someone comes to a big rabbi and he says, I got certain cloth material. I have different measures, meaning, some are grade A, some are grade B, some are grade C, right? Some are better quality, some are less quality, right? And they're all mixed together. So he says, I want to sell it all and give it, and sell it as grade A. So the great rabbi says, I don't understand the question. So the person, says the question slower, a little bit louder. The great rabbi stopped and he said, I understood the question. I'm not deaf. I understood the question. He says, why do you think that's permissible? It's stealing. It's ganeva. Stealing. So this guy asked him, because how do I know this story? Because a friend of mine was there. A friend of mine was there when he asked the question. The religious guy. He's asking the question. So this rabbi says, what are you talking about? It's stealing. Why do you think it's permissible? Listen to the answer. Why do you think it's permissible? He says, Rabbi, it's business. How can someone say that's business? How can someone not think that's not fraud? Have to ask them. I'm not going to answer for them. This is what other people do. Why do I care what other people do? They were religious Jews doing that. That's fraud. You don't have a right to defraud anyone, Jew or non-Jew. You don't have any right. Lying is lying. Yeah. Somebody asks, does Hashem speak to us through signs? Like Elijah, lose everything on the path you're on. Somehow paths lead to you being in the best position. Serve Hashem are the only ones there. Good question. Very, very good question. The Gemara says, person wants to go in the right direction. God will help him. You want to go in the wrong direction, God will not stop you. Right? Let's analyze that statement. Person's going down the slippery slope. God knows it's a slippery slope. The guy's going to lose everything, or is going to lose a lot. Does God have to stop you in that position? Sometimes he will. Sometimes in order not to hit the loss or something else happened to you, God intervenes. We don't see it. We don't necessarily see it. So the answer is, but does God have to? No. God does not have to stop you. Now, give an example. Give an example. The Ramban, I think it's the Ramban in the book of Job. The Ramban there says, when his friends chastise him, say, we'll continue to teach, you must have done something, this, that, and the other thing. So the Ramban there says, we get upstairs after 120 years, what are we going to say to God? We're going to say, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you do the other thing? Why'd you allow this to happen? And God's going to turn around and say, I didn't allow it to happen. You made a decision. You decided to go down this path. I didn't tell you to do it. I didn't egg you on. To say, yeah, it's a great thing. Put this thought in your mind and this and that. I didn't tell you to do it. Or a person drove reckless. They're in a hurry, going somewhere, whatever it is. I don't care if it's legitimate or not. Yeah, they're going in a certain area, kind of windy roads, 30 miles an hour, 40 km, right, kilometers, whatever. They're driving really fast when they shouldn't. They hit a car, they spiral out of control. Something happens. God, why didn't you stop me? You were driving like a maniac. You were driving like a maniac in a road. You never should have been driving that fast. I don't care what's going on in your mind. God says, what do you want from me? You went against Kaufman's 614th commandment. Don't be stupid. Or the 615th commandment. Don't be a moron. I didn't tell you to drive like a maniac. I didn't tell you to do this. Now, could God put things in our way to say, yeah, I shouldn't do this? Or I shouldn't do that? Sure. 100%. Right? In other words, God, there are times, and you see this a lot. Anyone's a sports fan, you see this a lot. Right? And that is, you see, let's say an athlete, has a few good seasons, whatever sport, they're ready to get a big payday. Right? They're ready to get paid a lot. Free agency, whatever, the same team, doesn't matter. They're up for a big contract. Very good. What happens? The off season, they got caught doing something red-handed. Yeah, red-handed. They got caught doing something, just ruined them. Just ruined them. Right? Not only they're not going to get the contract, they'll be lucky if they'll play again. Right? Because of ethical issues. Let's say. So what happened? God built this person up, got him in a position for real success, i.e. financial success. Person's been working for this their whole lives. Now they got the greatest opportunity. And what happens? They do something stupid. It goes viral. And then they just lost everything. Lost endorsements. They lost the contracts. Ray Rice, anyone remember Ray Rice? Got caught many years ago sucker punching his girlfriend, dragged her into an elevator, right? That thing, I think that's who it was. That thing went viral. He never played again. Never played again. People do all kinds of things. Yeah, you're gonna say, so in that sense, you can say, a person's up for a big contract. What happens when they get nailed? Why do they get nailed over there? Because God built them up and then destroyed them. Destroys them. Right over here. So yeah, could be with investments also. Person invests with somebody or as a business partner. Not a unheard of story. Things are going well. Next thing they know, business partner takes all the merchandise, whatever, and disappears. Or they end up stealing all their money. Why? Why didn't God stop it? then maybe sometimes God will, because he's looking out for the person. The person got merit. But let's say God decided this person deserved to die. Yeah, he had a death sentence. But God decided in mercy, because God needed him for other things, or needed this woman for other things. What did God do? God says, you know what? Instead of killing them, I'll have mercy. I'll just take away their money. And there are 4 people considered dead. One of them is someone who was poor. Right? It's a blind person. Someone's got tzara. Someone has, for lack of a better term, leprosy. Right? Someone who's poor. They're considered like they're being dead. They're considered like that. Right? We're not giving that information. God's not whispering in our ears and saying, hey, I'm going to give you a choice. I can really kill you right now because you deserve death penalty for whatever reason. Right? Or I could have mercy, keep you alive, and just take away all your money. I think most people would say, yeah, take away my money. That would be better, but we're not privy to these conversations. We don't know. So it could be to a person's benefit. Definitely to a person's benefit. Right? If a person goes down the wrong path, it doesn't mean God's necessarily going to stop you. Person, let's use another example. An example I've given before. Someone does something. Someone puts themselves in danger. They put themselves in danger. Yeah, the person allowed to put themselves in danger. They know it's a serious danger. No, it's forbidden. So this football player 20 years ago, 25 years ago, jumps in to save people drowning. Yeah, I think 2 people drowned. He himself drowned. I think he saved 1 person. Yeah. Person wasn't, a great swimmer. Right? I think it was known he didn't know how to swim that well. Not just that he wasn't a great swimmer. Right? Barely knew how to swim. So I remember when I was in camp, junior life saving, you jump in even with your clothes on, and it'll weight you down. You better know what you're doing. Because if you don't know what you're doing, this person's flapping around, they'll drown you before you save them. Right? You may end up saving them at some level, but you'll drown. So you have to know what you're doing. So the person thinks he's going to do the biggest mitzvah in the world. He's going to jump in and save someone. But the person doesn't know how to swim. So everyone's going to think, great Samaritan, great person. Yeah, it's too bad he didn't, he died. Too bad. So what happened here? You'll get upstairs and you'll say, God, why didn't you save me? Now, I'll put on my funny George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, and I would say, I was playing God. And then someone comes to me and says, hey, God, why didn't you save me? You know what I'd say? I didn't tell you to jump in. You had all this adrenaline. You wanted to jump in. But didn't you remember? You forgot you really didn't know how to swim. So why did God take their life? Right? What's going on over here? Usually you tell me if a person's got merits, the merits of mitzvahs should protect them. It's kind of like playing a video game, bad example, but it's kind of like playing a video game to get a lot of extra lives. You get a whole bunch of extra lives. Very good. So something goes wrong, you use up some extra lives. Right? In other words, something bad was supposed to happen. So God's okay, I'll take money away from you. I'll take this away from you. Right? But I'll leave you with a couple extra lives. This guy didn't have any extra lives left. This guy, God saw through his soul, ain't nothing coming out of him, took him. He didn't have anything to protect him. Mitzvahs protect us. They have the ability to protect. Sometimes not. Sometimes God just say, okay, I'll give you these mitzvahs later. They're not going to be enough to protect you over here, and other things are going to happen. But if it's a day, let's make clear. If it's a doubt whether it's a dangerous situation, spoken about this before also, if it's a doubt whether it's a dangerous situation, then I could jump in. If it's a doubt, if I know for sure, or a person knows for sure, this is a bona fide dangerous situation, you're not allowed to jump in. So then you ask me the question, $1.5 million question, and that is police officers, firefighters, how are they allowed to do what they do? Because you need people to do that. You need, even if it's dangerous, you need people to do that. Otherwise, there'd be no law and order, right? So, some people, I think it's foolish as they may be, have a great idea. We're going to defund the police. Yeah. Police, are on shortage anyway. You want to defund them and even have less people out there, be chaos. Be more than chaos. Right? That's insane. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. There's no protection. Who wants to live in a place there's no protection? In any case, if I have a doubt, there's a dangerous situation, it's one thing. Right? So you got firefighters, they're going to fight fires, and yeah, it could cost them their lives. It could, but you need people to do that. You need people in the army. You need people to fight wars. Right? It's not going to say, well, God will protect me. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Right? But someone decides that's what they're going to do. They're allowed to. Right? Because you need that in the world. You need, you can say, let someone else fight fires. Could be, it burns in a person's insides, no pun intended. That's what they feel. That's their purpose in life. Okay. Right? So there is a question if they're allowed to do that. But, putting yourself in real danger, you're not allowed to, in general. 100% you're not allowed to. If it's a doubt whether it's a danger, different issue. But if I put myself in a dangerous situation, or someone puts themselves in a dangerous situation, who says God has to help them? There's a statement that the Gemara says at the beginning of Pesachim, tractate Pesachim. It says, Shluchei mitzvah in nezoki. Someone who does a mitzvah, who's a messenger to do a mitzvah. Right? God's not going to put stumbling blocks in front of them. It's not going to cause them damage. Right? Shluchei mitzvah, the ones that go out to do the mitzvah, lo nizokin. Nezek means damage. God is not going to cause damage. In other words, they go out to do something, they're not going to get damaged. If they're, doing it for the sake of the mitzvah. But then the Gemara says, but what if nezek shrichi? What if the damage is common? In other words, if you do this, it could really cause you damage because it's common, whatever this thing is, it's going to cause you damage most of the time. Can I rely on the fact, shluchei mitzvah ain't nezokin? Can I rely on the fact that if I go to do a mitzvah, nothing bad is going to happen? Right? Even if it's a dangerous situation, you're going to tell me it's a real dangerous situation and walk into a burning building, even you want to try and save loved ones, let's say. So you're going to say, I'm doing it for the sake of the mitzvah to save loved ones. God's going to help me over here. But there's a raging fire here. There's tremendous amount of smoke. The building could just explode. Yeah. So who says you're allowed to put yourself in such a situation? God's going to save me. No. The Gemara says if it's a dangerous situation and it's common to cause damage, you don't have the divine protection. If it's common, if it's uncommon damage, let's say, then I can do it. Right? Then I have the protection. I should have the protection. So you're going to say, what's the definition of common? That's different, Again, it's something where bad things don't normally happen. It could happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. Right? So we say a person puts themselves in that situation, that's not called suicide. Not by any stretch, because who says the damage is going to happen? But if 80% of the time or 70% of the time real damage could happen, then can't do it. You don't have the divine protection. Right? Let's say that better. Right? In other words, over here, does God allow you to lose everything? He could. He doesn't stop you. 100% he doesn't stop you. He could. He can make it where you get information where it could have taken you down the wrong path and God saves you 100%. There are many times that's probably the case. We just don't see it. And, after 120 years, God's going to show you what happened and how God saved you from this, that, and the other thing. You're just not going to, you don't necessarily see it in this world. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's very clear. People want to get involved in something, something's telling them not to do it, so they hold off and they find out it's a Ponzi scheme. Or they find out, something else, the whole thing went under. Yeah. But see, when a person takes a hit, especially financial, it doesn't necessarily, it could mean one of two things. It could mean the person got bad advice. And God's just not, God wants them to lose it, so he's not doing anything to stop it, right? I'll give you an example. I know somebody had a non-kosher franchise of a chicken store, right? Person was a Jew, secular Jew. First store is doing very well, right? It's doing very, very well. So people gave him advice, open up a second store. They checked into it, they financially, this, that. So what they do, they open up a second store. Okay. What happened? The second store wasn't doing so well. Not only that, it took down the profits of the first store and the whole thing went under. Whole thing went under, the person lost everything. So what happened over here? Why didn't God protect them? God didn't want them to be in that business. So he took all their money that they invested. Things are going well, very, very well. So the person's, feeling pretty confident. This type of store is going well. So why not open another one? Why not? What's going to stop it? Checked out the location, not a bad location. There's that, very good. God says, yeah, very good. Think again. But he didn't tell them. So people involved in the business, yeah, go for it. It's a good idea, whatever. Person lost everything. So what happened? God wanted them to lose. So he put people in their way to butter them up, to tell them this is such a great idea, blah, blah, blah. You got to be a fool not to do it. You got to jump in. Person jumped in and fell in quicksand because God didn't stop it. So remember, the Gemara says, God, if you want to have a connection to God, yeah, God's going to help you. You want to go in the right path, God will help you. You want to go in the wrong path, God doesn't have to stop you. He could. He can put obstacles in your way to stop you, to make sure you don't go down that path. But he doesn't have to. Right? Again, there are a lot of other factors going on we don't know. We don't know. We think it's a great investment, this and that. Person loses their shirt. Yeah. So why does God want you to lose? Could be any number of reasons. When God wants to wake up a person, what does he do? He makes an event happen in the world somewhere. Yeah. A tsunami, fire, it's a huge fire, volcanic, eruption somewhere. Tens of thousands of lives lost. God forbid, property damage, damage in the billions, whatever it is. So you're going to say, Makesher, what's that connection to me? Right? So we say everything happens in the world for the sake of the Jewish people. So I have to wake up. I have to be introspective. It happens to them because it doesn't happen to me. That's not going to be me. Like my Rebbe said last week when we mentioned about Rosh Hashanah, person goes to Levaya, they go to a funeral. And they say, well, they don't think it's going to happen to them. Right? I'm not part of that committee. I'm not part of that group. We're going to say the older you get, don't you know? People die. People die older, younger. Whatever it is. Right? Two guaranteed things in life, death and taxes. Right? Not necessarily in that order. See, but I'm not really part of that. It's also there to wake you up. Right? Because my Rebbe would say, why do people die young and old? Why don't people die like King David says, the age of 70? Or if you have strength, the age of 80? Why don't people die at the same age? Because the person wouldn't do tshuva. We all know we're going to die at the same age. No one's ever going to repent. You need things to shake you up. So God sends you something to shake you up. It doesn't shake you up. So what does God then decide to do? Okay, now at a certain point, God's going to say, I have to shake you up more. So what am I going to do? I'm going to hit you in the pocket. You're going to lose money. You may lose significant money. You may lose everything. Who knows? You may lose a lot. Or a little, whatever it is. That should wake you up. Now, what if that doesn't wake you up? Then God says, I have no choice. I have to hit you in the body. I have to make you sick. I have to make you realize I'm the one in control. But God has mercy. First thing he does is make some event happen. That should wake you up. That doesn't wake you up, you get hit financially. Even if that doesn't wake you up, God hits you in the body. The obvious question is, why does God hit you in the body first? Why doesn't it just make you sick? What's the answer? Because God has mercy. He doesn't want to have to do that if he doesn't have to. He'll give you an opportunity to repent. You don't want to repent? You don't want to get the message? Your choice. Right? Now, The question is, I didn't really address, I only addressed the first part of it. What if God put you in this position and that's going to help you serve God better? Oh, now there are many stories, many stories of people went through different hardships, whether financial, whether health-wise. And what that did is that brought them on the path to come closer to God. Now, wouldn't it be better if we were to come closer to God on our own? We say every day in our prayers in the morning, do not bring me to what? Don't bring me to trials and tribulations. The only problem is, catch 22. If you don't have trials and tribulations, you don't grow. You don't grow spiritually. That's true. But we don't want them. If we understood how great the trials are and suffering are, we'd sign up for it. But we don't want it. We want to be left alone. We want to be able to serve God properly. We want to have enough money. We want to do all these other things. It doesn't work that way. We're here to toil, the Ramchal says. The path of the just and Derech Hashem. In the way of God. He says we're here to toil. That's our purpose. But can God put things in our way, stumbling blocks and all kinds of other things to help us draw closer? Yes. Does he want to do it that way? No. He wants us to come to that realization ourselves. Right? So let's say a person had it easy for a long time and then they struggle like no tomorrow. Their appreciation now of what they once had, they have a greater appreciation. Much greater appreciation. Not only that, it makes them stronger in Amunah. It makes their belief and faith in God much stronger. Now, if that's the case, isn't there a tremendous benefit even though they got thrown to the wolves? Yes. 100%. Right? God can lead a person down a slippery slope for whatever reason, but God's going to bring them out in such a way that you can't imagine. And it's got, because what does God have to do? What is God doing over here? Sometimes it's like you have toothpaste and you don't have a lot of toothpaste left. You're squeezing to get to the bottom of get a little bit of toothpaste out because it's too cheap to buy, or too lazy to buy other toothpaste. So they say, I got at least for a few more days. Sometimes that's what God does to us. He squeezes us. And he squeezes us in order to get some dormant character trait out of us that he never would have got out otherwise. So most people would say, I would have wished this didn't happen, but the fact it did made me better, made me stronger, made me be able to relate to others in the same way, in a better way than had you not gone through it. Right? And a lot of people would say, I'm better off going through it than if I wouldn't have gone through it. But going through it, it's hard. Right? No question that it's hard. But it can definitely do that. It can definitely make a person stronger and serve God in a much better way. 100%. 100%. The question is, is that what God wants? Right? Is that what we'll call Is that what God wants at the beginning? No. He doesn't want to have to do that. He doesn't want to have to make you suffer. He wants you to do the right thing. He wants you to go on the right path. Right? I'll give an example. Imagine a person struggles to use livelihood. Good example. A person struggles financially. They have a lot of difficulties. They have a lot of difficulties. They have a business, let's say. They have no idea where money's going to come from. Or they have a job, whatever. They have debt, different things, whatever it may be. With business is a better example. And, business is going down. It's going down a lot. They lose, let's say, a major client. They don't know what to do. They're thinking of closing. That's how bad it is. So what do? What do? You got an obligation. The Chov says, duty to the heart brings down and shar bitachon, the gate of belief and faith in God. What does he say? He says you got to put your best foot forward. You still have to put your best foot forward. Now, is that a guarantee for success? We always say no. Not a guarantee for success, but that's what I have to do. I have to put my best foot forward. You got to let God do the rest. Because there's a big X factor. God's a big X factor. He wants you to be successful, you will be. If he doesn't, you won't. It doesn't matter really what you do. Sometimes God will open doors when you least expect it. So all of a sudden, right, what happens? The person was in contact with somebody. Not in exactly the same business, but they could help the person. And the person comes along a year later, let's say, year and a half later, now gives them business, more business they had from the other thing, making more money and more time. It costs is they're doing it less time and they have more time to learn. Meaning their whole thing just changed in the blink of an eyelash. Within a blink of an eyelash. So the mantra always is, God, you're the one in charge. You are the one that runs things. That's it. You're the one in charge. I am nothing. I have to put my best foot forward. Okay. I'm trying to do this, trying to do that. But you're the one to do it. You're the one in charge. Yeah, you made it hard for me. But I want to tell you one thing. If God takes you out of, a person's in dire straits, whatever it may be, health-wise, livelihood-wise, could be, any number of things. And a person's in dire straits. Right? Let's use health. We use health as an example. A person goes through a routine checkup, do blood work, get a phone call from a doctor's office, come in right away. You never want to hear that. That never sounds good. Yeah. You come in, doctor says, you got to go to the hospital, we got major problems here. Major problems with blood work, you got to go straight away, this, that. Person's going to pray like no tomorrow. Like what's going on over here? You're perfectly healthy. A story many years ago. I'm telling the story. Someone went to the doctor, whatever, they're older in their 60s. That was when they were in their 60s, early 60s. Went to the doctor, blood work, everything, everything's good. Everything's good. A couple months later, major stroke. Major stroke, never really recovered. They died a number of years later. Yeah, you don't know. We don't know. King Solomon says you don't know what today's going to bring, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right? That's actually, we'll probably see that more in the next part of the Mishna, because it says repent one day before your death. Right? I don't know we're going to get there, but repent one day before your death. What's the obvious question? Who knows when they're going to die? Right? You don't know when you're going to die. They're going to repent every day. But the point over here in this story is now you go to the hospital, they're doing all kinds of tests because, now they're all worried. They say, okay, you got to do this regimen, that regimen, whatever. And they keep checking up. They keep following up just to make sure what the levels are and this and that. Let's say they're in the hospital, I don't know, a few days, they go back home, this and that. They got a call back from the doctor who said, you got nothing to worry about. Everything changed. Everything seemingly changed overnight. Did all these tests, all the levels are going down, you have nothing to worry about. You're kissing the ground. You were absolutely kissing the ground. Here, you're like death's door. You seem like it was at death's door. So now you're kissing the ground. So I'll tell you, something like that happens. And whenever someone has it, disappears. And God takes care of it. You cannot be the same person afterwards. Because if you don't take on something or become better, God's going to say, I just did this thing for you. I took you out of death's door. No pun intended. I saved you over here in so many ways. Do not pray to me the same way you do. Do not do things by rote. Do not get complacent. Because what could God say? Oh, this is how you serve me now? I just took you out of quicksand. I saved your life. I took you out of quicksand when you were drowning. This is how you pay me back? Bad. If that's ever happened in a person's life, get on the bandwagon. You're praying like no tomorrow. No pun intended. You are thanking God. You're the one in charge. And I am nothing. And I'm going to work hard to change and this and that. Do not ever become complacent. Because when God shows you almost like an open miracle. Yeah. When God shows you that, come on. He wants more now. He wants you to acknowledge more now. Can't go back to who you were before. And if you do, you're in trouble. Yeah. Somebody asks. Yeah, even someone's a bus driver, you can't discipline. Yeah, it's true. You're trying to drive. Kids are jumping up and down and causing dangerous situations. I mean, not, only so much you can do, but at the same time, you can't have a reckless situation. Right? But, you may have to say, somebody say something to parents. Yeah, I've disciplined such a child without being a bad teacher. I mean, so I'll ask you the following question. Even, a parent looks like a bad parent when they have to discipline. The kid really doesn't want discipline. They want to be able to do what they want. They want to smack their brother or sister around. They want to take They want to go in the fridge whenever they want. They want to do other things. You got to stop them. You got a mitzvah to stop them. I got to tell me they're going to, and kids say this. Don't think kids don't say this. I hate you and I'll never love you and this and that. Yeah, they say it because they didn't get their way. I was like, so he's going to tell me, okay, these are little kids. They'll become more mature. They'll see things later. Yeah, to a certain extent. True. But even if they're going to say, look, you're so mean, you're so, you're so cruel. And everybody had mean teachers, strict disciplinarians. People like teachers that were more flexible. You could reason with them. You could, not saying get your own way, but like you had leeway. There's some teachers, there's no leeway. Why don't they allow leeway? Because they want to be taken advantage of. You're going to say, but that's cruel. And what? There are teachers that, are very mean in that sense, that they're very strict. And kids do not like, even religious kids, they don't want strict teachers. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to chill. They want to do other things, but you're doing it for their own benefit. It's to their own benefit. They see it as being mean. I don't know if you care about that. I don't think it's something to worry about. You're doing it in their best interest. When you're doing it for someone's best interest, let them think you're mean and cruel and other things. So on. Right? It doesn't really matter. Yeah, you're doing it for their best interest. You tell me you'll get a bad reputation or cost you your job. Or maybe it's a different issue. Right? But if that's really not the case, it's only the way kids perceive it. There's a fine line here. Some people will say you got to absolutely be strict and you can't have kids stomp all over you and just get away with things. That's one thing. But the second thing is, if you do have a little bit of leeway and you're able to work with them and they respect it or whatever, that's good. That's very good. But you can't let them just get away with whatever they do. They have to be disciplined. Even if you're going to look bad, even if they think, oh, you're so cruel and so mean and this and that. Kids do it to parents all the time. I don't think it's right. But they lack understanding. You tell them they can't eat junk, they have to eat a meal. They have to eat a sandwich. They have to eat something, it's going to fill them up and not just junk. They'll hate you for that. They want to eat junk. They want to eat other things that are bad for them. Yeah. So sometimes the parent has to look cruel. Sometimes the parent has to be strict. Yeah. And they can look really bad in their kids' eyes. So, it's part of the game. I shouldn't say part of the game. It's part of life. But there are times you gotta stand fast. I think parent to kids is a little bit, a little bit different. Because there are parents that, very, very strict, and they ruin their kids by being too rigid. They totally ruin them. They don't work with them, so to speak. They think these are the rules and that's it. I mean, there are certain rules you can't break. Yeah, there are certain boundaries. But within those boundaries, you can give, kids space. And you should give them space. Shouldn't be so absolutely rigid it can't change. Because that kid will never get the message. Oh, there's always bad, that's bad, this, that. There's no leeway. Gotta give some leeway. Because your kids won't function otherwise. The kids, they'll just be on like, what's the word? They'll be walking on eggshells. Yeah, a person can be too strict for their own good. Disciplined for their own good. Because they don't see the bigger picture. Does that mean you should never discipline? No. You're disciplined when you have to. It's hard because sometimes you may have to look the other way, sometimes not. Sometimes you might have to look like the bad person. Okay, so looking like the bad person, but you're doing it for their benefit, is a different issue. Someone here mentions defrauding cheating is the lack of emunah. Yeah. Lending with ribbits, lending with interest, even though it's the way of the world. Yeah. You're going to say, I lend you 100, I want 150 back. Yeah, so to do it to a Jew, two Jews doing it, that's forbidden. Jew and a non-Jew is not a problem. Right? Non-Jew lending you or you lending them. But you're right. You're right. If a person is defrauding other people, then yeah, you think you're gonna make a quick buck. You think you're gonna, you think you're gonna do things to make more. True. That is a lack of emunah. That is definitely true. Because you think I'm gonna gain more. Well, guess what? You lose another one. Even let's say you gain more, you find out you lose. Other things will go wrong. Your washer will go, your car will go, something will happen where you got to pay out of pocket. So the money you gained, you didn't really gain. Right? And so to try and figure out how much money a person should make, God makes a decree how much money a person is going to make during the year, right on Rosh Hashanah. So you're going to say, how much was I supposed to really make? Or forget after taxes and charity and all that, right? How much was the person supposed to make? Think about it. Let's say your doctor's bills. Let's say, you had to get things for your car. You had to, other things would cause damage. So when you subtract all that, that's really how much money you're supposed to make. Right? But yeah, there's no stealing in front of God. God knows, He knows what the score is. Right? That's what people will say. Is I have to work on Shabbos. My store has to be open on Shabbos because the competitors, people go to the competitors. True, maybe they will. But that's also saying I'm not going to make enough money if I don't open on Shabbos. Not true. Because God can sustain you in 5 days, or 6 days instead of 7. He can do it. Sorry, 6 days instead of 5. Person can get sustained in 5 days, doesn't need the other day. Or it can be open on Sunday, whatever the case is. Nobody loses keeping Shabbos. You never lose. You go, hey, but all the competitors, forget the competitors, the lack of emunah. God will take care of your needs. Not a problem. And money you make there, you're going to lose in other ways. So, totally not worth it. But yeah, you're right. It's a lack of emunah. Someone asked, was the punishment of Job for advising Pharaoh to do? He wished the Israelites it. No. What did Job do? Let's remember, Job didn't give any advice. There were 3 advisors, right? You had Job, you had Yisro, Moshe's father-in-law, Jethro, and you had, who was the third one? You had Job, Yisro, and, why am I drawing a blank here? Bilam. Sorry, why could I forget Bilam? Right, Bilam was the third advisor. So Yisro told Pharaoh. He told Pharaoh, "Don't do anything to the Jews," and he fled. Bilam said, "Enslave the Jews." He was killed. Job didn't say anything. Job did not say anything. And Job got punished with suffering. Now, Bilam, we can understand, gave bad advice. He was killed. But Job didn't say anything. Job said 0. So why did he suffer? Because there's a Talmudic statement. The Talmud says, "Shtika keho dadam." If a person's quiet, it's as if he agrees. Now, if he would have spoken up, he could have been killed. That's why Yisro fled. Yisro fled because he knew if he's going to say don't do anything, he could have been killed. So Job said, "You know what? I don't want to do that. I'm not going to stick up for the Jewish people, but at the same time, I'm afraid. So you know what? I won't say anything." What do we learn out? There are times that a person has to speak up, even it might cost you in different ways. The Gemara in Erechim says, 15a, right, says about rebuking somebody. The Torah says, right? The Torah in book of Leviticus says, I'll get there one day, probably about, I don't know, who knows when. Right, we'll get there one day. It says you have an obligation to rebuke your fellow Jew. Then the end of the verse says, so you shouldn't fear the sin, meaning even if you rebuke and you knew how to rebuke, you can't embarrass them. You don't want to bear the sin of rebuking too hard, even though people say we don't know how to rebuke today, so there's no mitzvah. It's not true. There are times we have to say things anyway, even if no one's going to listen, right? So, my Rebbe learned this from the Pirke Avos, Rabbi Yisrael Zev Soloveitchik of blessed memory, on Torah Giants, the last generation, according to everyone. And he said sometimes you have to protest even though no one listens, right? And my Rebbe would say, I don't want to get upstairs after 120 years ago and say, how come you didn't protest? Because no one's going to listen. Why should I protest? Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to say things. Right? So remember, interpretation of this verse is, we have an obligation, Jews, to rebuke other Jews. Who says I have to rebuke non-Jews? Doesn't say that. It says, Hocheach tochiach es am misecho. Yeah, rebuke your nation. That would mean just the opposite as well. Non-Jews should not rebuke Jews. Right? They don't have an obligation to rebuke. And Jews don't have to rebuke non-Jews to keep the Noahide laws. Not at all. They want to come and learn, fine. We're a light into nations, let them come to us. Right? Someone uses that and says, hey, you got an obligation to pay, to pound the pavement, put up signs all over churches in different places so non-Jews keep their mitzvahs. Who says that's my job? There are 14 and a half Jews don't know anything about Torah mitzvahs. 13 and a half Jews. 13 and a half million Jews. They don't even know the alphabet. They don't know anything. I should worry about non-Jews keeping the Noahide laws. It's not my job. Someone comes to me, I have an obligation to teach them if I know what to do. And if a person doesn't know what to do, send them on to someone who does. Right? But it's me looking for non-Jews, that's what I do. Even though, I do advertising for what I do, but that's not proselytization. Right? But that's not our job. We're, all Jews are intertwined. We're not intertwined with non-Jews. When non-Jews deal with other non-Jews, that's why we're training non-Jews in Noahide law, so they can, they can teach others. Right? So here, Job doesn't say anything. So it's like Job agrees. It's 100% like he agrees. Job should have stuck up. Oh, sorry, I forgot one point. In the Gemara in Erechim, it says you give rebuke. How much rebuke do you have to give? How much rebuke do you have to give? You have to give enough proof. You have to give enough rebuke so where the person's about to smack you. You're going to say that's how far it goes? You have to go to war? Yeah. I mean, there are, this is a complex subject. It's a very, very complex subject. Yeah, because the excuse is if I give rebuke, we don't know how to give rebuke in this generation. If you don't know how to give rebuke, you should be exempt. But who says you're exempt across the board? You may have to give rebuke anyway. There are times you have to. It's a complicated topic. It's a very, very complicated topic. But at the same time, there are times you have to stand up, even if someone's about to hit you. There's difference of opinion how far it goes. As the Talmud says. Right? But we hold, if I remember correctly, we hold, if a person's going to give rebuke, even up to the point they might smack you. Yeah. Because you got to tell them. They have to know. Doesn't matter what they say, what they believe, this and that. They don't know. They think they know. I think they have some level of knowledge. I think that can't be right. This doesn't make sense. I don't have to keep it. I go to Webster's fifth definition. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I hope God says you're right. Yeah, like someone once told me, when I die, I'm going 6 feet under. So I said, next world, I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the next one. I said, well, I hope for my sake, I hope for your sake, you're right. According to me, you're in trouble. Yeah, why would someone say they don't believe in the next world? But I heard him say, I've never met anyone who's been in that world to come back. Well, let's say you give someone a gun. I said, here's a gun. Right? It's got 10 bullet holes. Right? Not 6. I'm going to up the ante here. It's got 10 bullet holes. I put one bullet in, close it up, I say, okay, here, go pull the trigger. Now, I would venture to say, even today's day and age, most people are not willing to pull the trigger. You get a wise guy here and there, will pull the trigger. I don't think most people pull the trigger. You get a 10% chance. You get a 10% chance. Yeah, sorry, 1 in 10. Yeah, you get a 10% chance. It's going to blow your brains out. Right? 10%, you're going to die. Anyone willing to take the odds? I don't think so. I think, let's say you had a bigger gun. They had 20. It's a 5% chance going to happen. Is anyone willing to pull the trigger? Maybe you get a few. But I don't think most people would still do it. Why not? Because they're going to say, it's my luck. I pulled the trigger, I blew my brains out. Right? But why would someone not do it in general? I'll tell you. Because they know it's real. They know if I pull that trigger, there could be a bullet there and I could die. Right? They're not going to pull it. They're not going to play Russian roulette, as it's called. They won't do it. Even if the odds are very small, they're not going to do it. But now we're talking about Olam Haba. Now we're talking about the next world and what's going to happen and all the suffering and what could happen and blah, blah, blah. I'll take all my chances. Right? The evil inclination will tell you, yeah, what's the big deal? You don't even think it's going to happen. You're just going to die. You're going to close your eyes. You're going to sleep forever. Right? You don't even believe in it. You don't even believe in it. So I'm not worried it's ever going to happen. Yeah, there's a problem with this theory, obviously. Right? What's the problem? The person ever did research? I don't think the person ever did research. Yeah, they don't want to do research. They don't want to see whether it's true or not. Because if you prove some of the Torah is true, even if you don't even have any other evidence, but some of it's true, then probably the rest of it is also, unless I find contradictions or whatever. So there are repercussions. Oh, you don't know, no. I remember everybody saying, no, they've been there, come back. Doesn't matter. He believes in Olam Haba. He believes in resurrection of the dead. He believes in reward and punishment. You know, there's definitely evidence for it. Doesn't matter. Most people would say, next world, never heard such a thing. Never heard such a thing. Oh, so I would say, if you go online and you put in clinical death, and you see people at out-of-body experiences, right? Jews, non-Jews, doesn't matter. Right? They all say the same thing. Soul hovers over the body, proof there's a soul. Drawn to this great light, exactly what the Zohar says, according to Kabbalah. Right? And then they'll tell you they hear things. They hear other souls screaming out. Other souls in pain, suffering. So what is it? So some people say, I can't even say what I saw. I'm not even going to say it's too scary. I'm not even going to say what I saw. So again, Jews, non-Jews, men, women, older, younger, children, doesn't matter. Across the board. Across the board. You're going to say they're all wackos? Maybe. It was all these people that just made it up. Clinical death, they didn't make up. Because the doctors and everyone agreed they were dead for however long. Could be a minute, 2 minutes, 5, whatever it is. They're dead. They're clinically dead. How do they come back to life? There's only one reason they come back to life, because God put their soul back in the body. If the soul didn't come back in the body, they'd be dead. Simple. So if that's the case, without delving more into this, if that is the case, at the very least, it proves that a person's just not the body. It proves that a person has a soul. I use other proofs from the Torah and different things, but this is very good because they see someone telling over what they saw when they were clinically dead. This is what happened in a car crash. Whatever it was, they ended up being clinically dead. Everyone agrees they were clinically dead. How do they all say the same thing? Gee, what an interesting coincidence. So how do they say that? So there's got to be truth to that. I mean, there are other more sophisticated proofs, not just this. But bottom line is, that's a good, you hear what people say, you think, wow, it's an amazing thing. So we are a soul, very good. Now let's take it one step further. What did they see? What are they talking about? What they saw? What they heard? They hear screaming. Whatever that screaming is, as a soul. They sense it. They feel it. Yeah. You want to say, oh, they're all making it up? That's a little bit hard to say. Because there's no bias in it. You got Jews, non-Jews, blacks, whites, Chinese, Asians, whoever. They're all saying similar things. So how could you say, oh, it never happened? I don't believe in the next world. A bunch of hogwash. Yeah. You want to read this story? You want to see this video? No. Not interested. Okay. Your choice. You're just sticking your hand in the sand. Sticking your head in the sand. So people coming from different walks of life and saying the exact same thing, there's a very interesting coincidence. But it's not true. I don't have to believe in it. You're right. You don't have to drink the Kool-Aid. But when, all these people say the same thing, you can't just blow it off. That's kind of hard to do. Very hard to do. So, say I'm only going 6 feet under, that means you're right. You're going 6 feet under, but you didn't do any other research. You're not looking into any other thing. Your choice. 100% your choice. But at the same time, you're just ignoring reality. You're not looking at the other side. You're not evaluating evidence. There's other ways to look at it as well. But this is pretty strong evidence. I'm not saying it's the only evidence. People put up to that. People pay. What are you going to say? They're all paid off? Every single person got paid off by different groups to say it? Different religious groups? Yeah, maybe. And maybe the Jews got out of the desert. Got out of Egypt because they all ate, they came to Mount Sinai and everything happened there because they all ate the same hallucinogenic mushroom. Maybe. There is a theory, a bad theory, how all the miracles happen. Yeah, some people want to say splitting the sea was like high tide and different things. But there's a theory that says, no, the miracles happened because Saturn was out of orbit. There's such a theory. Would you bet all the money you have on that? I don't think so. I'll take what the Bible says. Want to tell me Saturn was out of orbit? Very good. I got a bridge I can sell you in Brooklyn cheap. It's evaluating evidence. Plenty of people out there do not want to evaluate evidence. They'd rather keep their heads stuck in the sand. They want fantasy. Fantasy sells. Victor Miller, someone here says, the purpose of this world so we can earn and merit the world, the next world, right? This world is the only place we can merit. We have merits and tests and all that. It's true. That's true. So you can convince a person we all have tests. I think they would agree. Secular people, Jews, non-Jews, yeah, person, gets tested a lot in this world. But saying that there's a reward and punishment for what I do and there's the next world, that's a bigger jump. It's a much, much bigger jump that I do not think most people are signing off for. They are not going to sign for that. They'll say tests and tribulations we have, very good. But the fact is the next world and the soul and it, that's a very big jump. Again, there are other proofs for that. If you read the introduction to Path of the Just, Ramchal speaks about it. He says this world can't be the ultimate because of so many things. A person, is born with all kinds of illnesses and different things, or a person is born with a lot of money or different things. There's so many things don't make sense. There has to be something else going on in the world, or in the spiritual world. He said it just doesn't make sense logically. You think most of these people are going to read the introduction to Path of the Just? No. They'll keep to whatever their theory is because they don't want to change. They don't want to admit there's reward and punishment. They don't want to admit there's repercussions for their actions. That's someone telling me. Someone told me, been married, I guess I'll end with this. They've been married for, 30 years more. Married to a non-Jew, nothing bad's ever happened to them. I mean, okay, he fell off their bike, broke 6 vertebrae, collarbone, had Nausser. Okay, but, besides that, nothing quote unquote really bad. Been successful financially in other ways. Yeah, so what? Nothing really bad's ever happened, and you think your streak is going to run, the course of time. You don't think there's ever going to be any payback. They don't want to believe it's going to be payback. Makes perfect sense. They want to do what they want to do. They don't want to think there'll be repercussions. But the fact you haven't seen it now, God's got a lot of ways. He's got a lot of ways. I said, I wouldn't, I told the person, or I felt like, I don't know if I said it outright, but I think I would have liked to say, listen, if we were standing next to each other and lightning, and there's a lightning storm, I'm going to run as far away I can from you. Who says lightning's not going to strike you? You can say the odds of that are about 0. Yeah, it's true. Odds are very slim. You're going to get hit at some point, whether this world or the next. It's just a matter of when. Or God can make you so successful. God doesn't, he has to give you merit for whatever mitzvah you've done in this world. So he has to pay you back in this world, only to wipe you out in the next world. But who says you're not going to get it in this one? Person will get it eventually. Person's streak is not going to go on forever. That success is not going to go on forever. Well, they lose everything, they don't lose everything, they get really sick, they lose their mind, other things, whatever it's going to be. Whatever it's going to be, God has his ways. God will take care of business. The way he needs to. We don't have to worry about that. And if we are worried about that, we want our enemies to be taken care of in different ways, that's a lack of emunah. That's like saying God doesn't know what he's doing. I want you to take care of business. Right? God will take care of business. We do not have to worry. That's not something we have to worry about. Yeah, any other questions? All right, I'm going to stop here. I do this every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time. Next Saturday, not sure. It'll be after the first day of Sukkot. So anyone basically who's Jewish will be listening to this anyway. But we'll see where I'm going to be after the holiday, first day of the holiday. So I'm not sure I'm going to be doing it next week. Tomorrow, certainly not going to be any classes because it's going to be Yom Kippur. So anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week. We'll go Leviticus chapter 17, Q&As, ethics for our fathers, plenty of things to look at there, controversial issues. Anyone has any questions, send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com, whichever goods. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, depending where you are, or end of the day. Anyone fasting should have a meaningful Yom Kippur.